livable city is a catch-all phrase. It may mean everything and nothing unless it's defined by the people who live, work, and play in it. Urban planners and architects, the tribe that I belong to, are often criticized that we think about buildings and plans alone and not enough about people. I think we've moved away from the narrative quite a while back. More than 30 years back, my wish to become an architect was embedded in wanting to make the built environment better for people. This took me on an amazing journey and a lot of stories to tell. From Mumbai to London to Manila, from a small town of weavers in Paitan, a small village in India, to understand how art and architecture influence the sari patterns and textiles and also the socio-economic conditions of the weavers. To Hue and Malacca in Southeast Asia for greening cities. How did these journeys influence my work on livable cities in Georgia? Georgia is a beautiful country of 3.7 million warm and welcoming people, 1/3 of who live in the capital city of Tbilisi and contribute to more than 50% of the country's GDP. And yet, there has been a decline in the overall population, out-migration from the regions, lack of employment, and poor quality of life has definitely affected these smiling people. Georgia also has a lot of has also a lot of tourists coming in. So this has really been a journey of understanding what Georgia can do and what is the regional potential. I started working in Georgia in 2014 when we did the National Urban Assessment. I remember landing in Tbilisi on a very cold winter night and taking a matrushka, which is bus, from the airport to the city center. I reached Freedom Square and struggled with my luggage to take it from the bus station to the hotel. Why? Because there was no at-grade crossing. This brought me to my first livability insight, to think about the needs of each and every user, including visitors, a city for all. And so began the journey of developing the Inclusive Cities Guidelines to create a seamless and accessible environment for the persons with disabilities, for older persons, women, children, youth, and tourists. Accessible tourism is not just the need in Georgia, but also Uzbekistan and other countries in the region. As more and more senior citizens, retirees with disposable incomes are visiting this place and region, Georgia has more than twice the number of tourists every year than its entire population. Can you imagine what this does to the country? And yet the tourism revenues are lagging because of lack of quality tourism experiences, the need for upgrading basic services and tourist infrastructure, and to address this imbalance between the regions and Tbilisi. This brought me to my second insight, to start planning upstream, strategic planning for localizing the global. We started brainstorming at the national level with several ministries, agencies, brought everyone to the table, and thought, what should we be doing? How can we start looking at the priorities at the national level, global level, like SDGs, NDCs, and also think about local priorities? We identified 3 clusters in the regions, and also Tbilisi as the 4th cluster. How did we do this? How did we move from the global to the local? Through integrated urban action plans. We used a participatory planning approach to put people at the center of city visioning, decision-making, and project prioritization. A vision for a livable city can only be collectively developed by the people who are living in it. Manyana, a traditional baker in the village of Velitsike in Kakheti region, has a vision to build hostels for tourists. Manana lives on this ancient street where people have found Qvevri wine cellars in their basements. Qvevri winemaking in Georgia is a UNESCO intangible cultural heritage dating back 8,000 years. We are restoring this street under the Livable Cities project and also supporting business development facilities for women entrepreneurs such as Manana. Livable cities also nurture and build on unique assets and competitive advantages. For example, Masti and Lagami in the north, they have unique towers called the Swan Towers. An early ADB investment in the road actually was very transforming for the tourism development there. So we are taking the next step and supporting cultural heritage restoration in the neighborhood. This brought me to my third insight. People know what they want. Active listening can put people at the center of decision-making. Participatory planning can be a huge tool to help us work through this, and we asked a diverse group of participants, and including the youth, how do you want your city to be in the next 10 years? We learned through active listening that it's not just the lack of jobs, but also lack of recreational facilities that are driving the youth out of the region. The older generation in Kutaisi wanted to revive a sporting culture from the region which had produced Olympic swimmers and also the national polo team. This was also a rationale for the government not just to put in a swimming pool in Kutaisi, but also 5 other sports complexes in the region to enable a healthier outlet for the youth and to create a healthy lifestyle for the citizens in the region post-COVID. So this has been a journey of moving from different kinds of projects, sub-projects. The child caring responsibilities women had in the regions were also limiting them from active participation in the workforce. So we started thinking about providing kindergartens in catchment areas, all with accessible design standards, energy efficient design, and that has helped the women to start thinking about moving back into the workforce. These were located really well with the schools. Whereas in Tbilisi, the citizens wanted to have more green spaces, accessible transport, and we are investing in park development, nature-based solutions, and Tbilisi metro rehabilitation. So this project has actually touched upon all of the 7 operational priorities for ADB Strategy 2030. It has also been one of the first One ADB collaborations with the private sector for affordable housing in Georgia. And yet I was asked, this looks very innovative on paper, can you implement it? My answer was simple. The cities that we live in are complex and the solutions have to be multi-sectoral. We moved from a siloed approach to an integrated urban development approach. And I had a multidisciplinary and committed team to help deliver this. Within 6 months of the project being effective, we have already awarded 60% of the contracts and disbursed more than 25% of the amount. Making cities livable is going to require innovative thinking and effective leadership, and our team is ready for it. Thank you.